Emma Riley waited beyond the fancy eatery, her fingers shaking while she grasped her 3-year-old boy's palm. Noah wore his beloved Superman top, his wavy locks still wet from the wash she'd provided him an hour earlier. She'd attempted to clarify that Mommy held a unique supper tonight. Yet Noah had gripped her thigh and wept until she couldn't stand it. The caregiver had bailed at the final second. "Tummy, she'd messaged. And Emma possessed no reserve. Her mom resided 3 states distant. She lacked nearby pals in the town yet. And the matchmaking site she'd hesitantly entered specifically stated this was meant to be a supper outing at $7 at Marello's, one of the priciest spots in the city. Emma drew out her device and drafted a note to the guy she was due to see. Ethan Cole, 42 accomplished entrepreneur, his bio had claimed. They'd been chatting for 2 weeks and he'd appeared gentle and tolerant, but now she was set to wreck what was likely her sole opportunity at a regular grown-up night in months. "I'm truly regretful, but I must withdraw. Caregiver crisis. I'm honestly apologetic for the brief alert." She pressed send and was it to pivot and head residence when her device instantly buzzed. "It was him." "Hello," Emma replied anxiously. "Emma, it's Ethan. I just received your note."
"Where are you?"
"I'm really outside the eatery, but I have to return home." My caregiver bailed. "And are you accompanied by your son?" Ethan inquired, his tone steady and free of criticism. "Yes," Emma confessed. "I realize this is totally unsuitable for an initial outing, and I should have just withdrawn sooner, but I was attempting to resolve something." "And invite him inside," Ethan cut in softly. "What?" "Invite your son indoors. We'll share supper collectively, all 3 of us. I already possess a spot, Ethan. I can't perform that." This was intended to be an outing, not a household supper with a stranger. "Then let's label it a family welcoming gathering," Ethan stated, and she could detect the grin in his tone. "I'm already present. The spot's booked. And truthfully, I'm eager to encounter the small fellow you discuss so often in your notes. Unless you'd prefer not, I fully grasp if this renders you uneasy." Emma gazed down at Noah, who was inspecting a leaf he'd discovered on the pavement with fierce focus. She pondered her vacant flat, the chilled pizza she'd have for supper once more, the solitude that had been her steady partner since Noah's dad had departed 2 years earlier. "Okay," she heard herself utter. "We'll enter. But I'm alerting you, he's 3. And he's not precisely upscale dining stuff. Neither was I at 3. Ethan responded, "Enter. I'll request the host to prepare another setting." Emma inhaled deeply, clenched Noah's palm and stepped into the eatery. The inside was gorgeous. Soft illumination, crisp linens, the soft hum of smartly attired folks holding refined talks. Emma felt instantly mismatched in her basic denims and plain blouse, with her fabric carryall and her son in his hero top. The host eyed them with scarcely hidden disdain. But before he could utter anything, a gentleman rose from a corner spot and signaled. Ethan Cole was even more attractive than his pictures, with deep hair groomed flawlessly, donning a midnight suit that likely exceeded Emma's monthly lease. He appeared precisely like the sort of thriving entrepreneur whose bio had daunted her initially, but when he neared them, he bent down instantly to Noah's height. "Hey, buddy," Ethan said with a friendly grin. "I'm Ethan. What's your title?" Noah, who was typically timid with unknowns, examined this gentleman earnestly. "I'm Noah. I'm 3 years old and I adore Superman." "Superman is outstanding," Ethan said gravely. "Do you know what Superman's strength is?" Noah shook his head. "He doesn't possess any strengths. He's just a normal individual who chose to be courageous and aid folks. That means anyone can be a champion if they strive enough. Pretty neat, huh?" Noah's face brightened. "Truly? So I could be Superman?" "Definitely," Ethan affirmed. Then he rose and faced Emma, offering his palm. "And you must be Emma. It's delightful to at last encounter you face to face." Emma grasped his palm, sensing tears sting her eyes at the plain generosity of how he'd addressed her son. "I'm truly apologetic about this. I know this isn't what you enrolled for. In fact," Ethan said, leading them to the spot, "this is precisely what I enrolled for. You noted in your notes that being a mom is the vital part of your existence. I valued that candor. Encountering Noah is encountering the vital individual in your realm. I'm privileged you'd confide me with that." At the spot, a waiter had already positioned a high seat and was arranging a third setting. Ethan noted Emma's look, amazed that he'd organized this so swiftly, and grinned. "I phoned ahead while you were strolling in," he clarified. "Requested them to fetch some markers and sheets too. If they possess them, Seemed like it might assist. Indeed. The waiter came back with a kid's listing printed on sheets that could be shaded on, along with a tiny holder of markers. Noah nestled into his high seat. Instantly engrossed in the shading task, Emma gazed at Ethan across the spot, viewing him plainly for the initial moment. "Why are you being so generous about this?" she inquired softly. Most guys would have fulled for the mountains. Ethan wassled for a second, his look reflective. "Can I share something that's not in my matchmaking bio? Please, I have a daughter. Her title is Ava. She's 8 years old, and I haven't viewed her in 3 years. Emma felt her breath halt. What occurred? Untidy split, Ethan said, ache clear in his tone. Even Ash maintained his voice level. Her mom remarried and relocated to Australia. The guardianship setup gives me almost no privileges because I was journeying so much for labor when we divided. My former spouse claimed I was a missing dad, and the judge concurred. I receive video chats twice a month, planned at times that suit Australian zones. That's it. Ethan, I'm truly regretful. I share this because I want you to comprehend why I'm not disturbed by Noah being present. Every time I view a dad with his kid, it shatters my heart a bit because I don't receive that. So when you said your caregiver bailed, my initial thought wasn't let down about our outing. It was appreciation that you're the sort of mom who wouldn't simply abandon her son with anyone, who places his requirements first, even when it's troublesome. That's praiseworthy. Emma felt tears rising. I've been so anxious about matchmaking because everyone's bios say they're not keen on single moms or they want to encounter someone without luggage, like my son is luggage. Your son is a treasure, Ethan said resolutely. Anyone who views him as anything else isn't worthy of your moments. Noah glanced up from his shading. Mommy's weeping. Are you making Mommy upset? No, darling, Emma said, drying her eyes. These are joyful tears. Ethan is being very gentle. Okay, Noah said, content with this reason, and resumed his artwork. Supper was unlike any initial outing Emma had ever known. Instead of the typical clumsy chatter, they discussed genuine matters, the hurdles of raising kids, the remorse that arrived with juggling career and kid nurturing, the isolation of handling it solo. Ethan selected carefully from the listing, picking items Noah might like and ensuring to inquire him what he desired. When Noah became fidgety between dishes, Ethan retrieved his device and displayed him images of Ava telling tales about his daughter that made Noah chuckle. She's lovely, Noah announced, viewing a picture of a small girl with deep wavy hair and a gap-toothed grin. Does she like Superman too? She's more of a Wonder Woman admirer, Ethan said. But I wager she'd adore to chat with someone who knows so much about Superman. Can she come play with me? Noah inquired innocently. Thage that passed Ethan's face was short but obvious. She resides very distant, pal, but perhaps someday. After supper, as they exited the eatery, Noah was becoming weary. He raised his arms to Emma, desiring to be lifted. Before she could raise him, Ethan said, May I? At Emma's nod, he hoisted Noah onto his shoulders. The small boy shrieked with joy at the fresh height. I'm so high. See, Mommy, I'm a titan. Emma chuckled, and for the initial time in years, she felt something relax in her chest. The ongoing strain of managing everything solo, the burden of being completely accountable for another person, it lightened just for a second. They strolled to the parking area where Emma had parked her worn coupe, Ethan bearing Noah the entire path despite donning a costly suit. When they arrived at her vehicle, Ethan cautiously passed Noah to Emma to secure him in. Thank you, Emma said as she shut the car door. Fortnight for being gentle to him, for not making me feel like I'd destroyed everything by inviting my son to an initial outing. You didn't destroy anything, Ethan said. Emma, you offered me a treasure tonight. You allowed me spend moments with a marvelous small boy who reminded me why I'm battling so fiercely to remain linked with my daughter. And you demonstrated me that not all single parents are the horror my former spouse was. You're performing an amazing task with Noah. Can I view you again? Emma inquired, then instantly doubted herself. I mean, if you desire to. No obligation. I would adore that, Ethan said. And next occasion, Noah is automatically welcomed. I mean it. I comprehend your existence arrives as a complete set. I'm not keen on just portion of your existence. I want to learn all of it. They encountered each other 3 times a week for the following month. Sometimes it was just Emma and Ethan when she could organize kid care. But frequently it was the 3 of them. Visits to the playground, kids' exhibits, relaxed suppers where Noah felt at ease. Ethan never made her feel remorseful for inviting her son. Never proposed she should locate more caregivers so they could have proper outings. This is a proper outing, Ethan maintained one night after Noah had dozed on the sofa between them during a film. This is genuine existence. Learning you means learning Noah, too. 6 months into their bond, Ethan received a call that altered everything. His former wife's new union was crumbling, and she desired to return to the States. More crucially, she was ready to revisit guardianship. She said, "She's been observing my online posts." Ethan told Emma, his tone trembling with feeling. "She's viewed the images of me with you and Noah. She said I've obviously matured, that I'm not the missing dad I once was. She's ready to consent to shared guardianship once she returns." "Ethan, that's amazing," Emma said, embracing him. "It's due to you," he said, "because you allowed me back into a kid's existence in a manner that assisted me mend and recall how to be attentive. You offered me the opportunity to demonstrate I could be the dad I ought to have been always." When Ava arrived for her initial lengthy stay, she was naturally anxious about encountering her father's partner and this small boy she'd learned about in video chats. But Noah, with the bold amiability of a 4-year-old, instantly proposed to display her his playthings. "You can play with my Superman lair," Noah offered kindly, "and I'll demonstrate you how to construct structures out of cubes." "Do you like cubes?" Ava, who'd been silent and wary, grinned for the initial time. "I adore cubes." A year later, Ethan proposed to Emma, not in a lavish eatery but in Emma's sitting room with both Noah and Ava present. Noah had assisted him select the band, and Ava had composed a talk about how she'd always desired a little sibling. At their ceremony, Noah acted as ring carrier, donning his best Superman top under his small suit coat, and Ava was the pedal girl. In their pledges, both Ethan and Emma vowed not just to cherish each other, but to cherish and tend for all the kids in their mixed household. "You thought inviting Noah to our initial outing would frighten me off," Ethan said during his pledges, "but you delivered me the precise thing I'd been lacking. The opportunity to be portion of a household again, to be required and desired, not despite being a dad but because of it. You and Noah didn't just offer me your affection, you returned me my daughter by demonstrating me how to be attentive." Years later, when folks inquired how they connected, Emma would narrate the tale of the caregiver who bailed, the frantic note, and the gentleman who said, "Invite him in without pause." She'd discuss how terrified she'd been that having Asen would render her unmatchable, and how Ethan had shown that the proper individual doesn't view kids as barriers, but as chances to construct something grander than just a pair. And Noah and Ava, who matured as siblings despite possessing no blood tie, would sigh playfully at the tale they'd heard countless times. The tale of how a bailed caregiver and a Superman top led to a household that selected each other fully and without doubt. Because that's what Emma discovered that night at Marello's, that the proper individual doesn't request you to conceal the vital parts of your existence. They request you to divide them. They view your kid not as a nuisance but as an entry to what counts most to you, and they grasp that affection isn't just between two folks. It's between all the folks who select to form a household, however that household is shaped. If this tale moved your soul and recalled you that the proper individual will accept all of you, including your kids, and that household is constructed through selection and dedication, please like, share, and follow for more tales about mixed households, single-parent matchmaking, and discovering affection that embraces rather than rejects. Comment below about someone who cherished you and your kids as a full set, or about realizing that being a parent doesn't render you unmatchable. It just assists you locate the proper individual. Sometimes inviting your kid to an initial outing is the boldest and finest thing you can perform.